actually not going to have terrible prizes if he can set up, but having 1 Bridget rather than 3, that's going to hurt.
All right, and we are kicking off game 1 here in the top 4 between William Azevedo from Brazil against Tord Reklev from Norway. If you guys are watching, get on social media, use the hashtag #PlayPokemon. Tell us who you think is going to win this matchup. Can William take down Tord, or will it be one more finals appearance from our Norwegian player?
The good news is he has hit that Max Elixir straight away on turn 1, gotten that all-important fighting energy on the Rockruff so that he's prepared for dangerous Rogue GX in the future, and then he just gets an end down to refresh his and Tord's hand back up to 6 cards. But of course, he gets a new hand of 6 after playing quite a few bench Pokemon and hitting a Max Elixir.
Yeah, this is going pretty well for William so far. As long as he can get an energy attachment, this will be a pretty perfect first turn for him. And he gets to go first. That is a big deal in any matchup against an evolution deck, such as Tord's. Being able to knock out those Zorua and Ralts before they're able to evolve will give William the advantage in this matchup where he is looking to be the aggressor.
Yes, it really will. Of course, he's now going to be able to have the energy on the Rockruff. Hopefully next turn he'll get an energy so he can Jet Punch with his Buzzwole GX and then start taking out these Zoruas. He's going to get a turn to attack before Tord gets a turn to evolve. Of course, he hasn't actually used his energy attachment for the turn. There we go, onto the Buzzwole. Even gets a Remoraid on the bench ready to evolve next turn. And he's got a great setup as he passes over to Tord. That's a good turn 1.
Yeah, just perfect start for William. I mean, he could have asked for like 3 more Max Elixirs, but I think he'll settle for what he's got, and it'll be down to Tord, and he opens up with that signature turn 1 Bridget. I don't think I've ever seen him not play one on the first turn.
Yeah, but let's remember, he had 2 Bridget prized, and he started with the other one in his opening hand.
No, he got End, and then he drew it.
Oh my goodness, you're right, he got End and then drew the Bridget. I mean, that's a good start, and he's going to look through here and go, oh, guess I'm not going to be drawing into Bridgets for the rest of the game. And they're about the best prizes ever after you've used one. So that end really helped him. And of course, the other thing to point out, Tord started with 3 basic Pokemon. So it really was quite an advantage here that when the end came down, Tord actually had a hand of like 4 cards. And then he started his turn with a hand of 6 cards. That's a big advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, it almost feels unfair. Tord is obviously an excellent player, and when he gets these excellent starts like this, it's like, come on, give me a break. He's already a great player. You can't give him good hands, too. Give me a little break.
Yeah, it is a little bit unfortunate for his opponent. Now, we do see a couple of Zorua coming down, and we see a 3rd basic. I believe that's a 2nd Routes. He's not had to put a Tapu Lele onto his bench. 2 Routes, 3 Zorua. I mean, this is a very, very nice start to the game here.
Yeah, he's even got a 4th Zorua off camera a little bit up top.
Yes, that's an excellent point. We just mentioned that. And then yeah, so he's got 4 Zorua, 2 Routes, of course. A lot of the time you see players saving that extra bench space just in case they need to play a Tapu Lele. But as soon as you get 1 or 2 Zoroarks out, it means you don't need to play Tapu Lele anymore because you can just trade away and draw those extra cards. So he fills up his bench turn 1, but he's got to be feeling good. If he gets an energy attachment down now, it's basically the perfect start.
Yeah, and even if he doesn't, this is not like the Lycanroc version of the Zoroark deck. You can afford to miss energy attachments on the first turn because Gardevoir GX can attack for a single energy. It can use Secret Spring to accelerate extra energy in play, so you're not as punished if you don't get that first turn energy attachment with this deck.
Absolutely. It's not the end of the world there because a lot of the time you just need that double colorless energy. I sometimes find it's nice to stash fairy energy onto a Rouse, but then again, that's when we see Guzma coming down to target it. So we do see an Ultra Ball coming down from William here, and I was going to say Octillery, and just as I'm about to say it, he puts it to the front of his deck, just to make sure he doesn't have these Zoroarks to use trade, but it does mean that he can use Octillery and that Abyssal Hand to draw until he's got 5 cards in hand every turn. He doesn't really need that Lycanroc this turn, because he's probably just going to be using Jet Punch to KO a Zorua. Maybe you evolve it up to give it a bit of protection against a Guzma and a Riotous Beating, but generally here, he just wants to KO a Zorua.
Yeah, so one of the interesting interactions I think we're going to see in this game is the Mew EX on Tord's side. We've seen it a lot against Buzzwole GX as William does hit a max elixir there. That's going well for him so far. Mew EX has been seen plenty of times already this weekend to knock out Buzzwole GX for just a double colorless energy, thanks to the Psychic weakness. And it's been interesting to see how all of these Buzzwole Lycanroc decks have answered Mew EX. There's been a Mewtwo we saw. Typically, we just see Lycanroc GX attack it and knock it out. William actually plays one non-GX Lycanroc, and that means with a strong energy, Choice Band, and Regirock down, he can hit Mew EX for 120 damage and a knockout, so he probably has the cleanest answer of all to an opposing Mew EX. I wonder if we'll see that come up at all.
I do hope so. That's a card I'm a very big fan of, and you're right, it's a great answer to Mew. We did actually see William there after he hit the max elixir. I believe there was a manual attachment to that Buzzwole, which is just slightly off the top of the screen there, but he did actually manage to completely empty out his hand, and then Abyssal Hand for 5, so even though he had the KO on the Zorua there, 30 damage on the next Zorua, he's also able to really start setting up his bench. He's got the 2 Rockruff, one with an energy, he's got the Octillery ready for Abyssal Handing, and he's got that Buzzwole there, which I believe has 2 energy attached to it. So he set himself up really nicely there.
Yeah, he's doing everything he needs to do right now. Getting a quick knockout on that first Zorua, putting damage on a benched one, saying, hey, you need to evolve this, or else it's going to get knocked out by Jet Punch. And Tord does evolve that one Zorua. But I think William's kind of bracing for what Tord does on this turn. He's hoping that Tord does nothing, and then he can just continue to Jet Punch for knockouts. But he's trying to prepare his benched Buzzwole in case Tord gets Rare Candy, Gardevoir GX. He's got an energy on the Rockruff in case he can go for the dangerous Rogue GX. Hitting those max elixirs and getting to go first has allowed William to spread his energy in a way where he can prepare for all of Tord's threats.
And I do like this a lot. I mean, we do see a strong energy on that benched Buzzwole. Tord does play a single copy of Enhanced Hammer, which could come up, of course. Yeah. Speaking of could come up, oh, that was beautifully timed. But of course, as Philip said to me in an interview we had a few moments ago, 1-ofs are actually 6-ofs. Because not only do you have Puzzle of Time, you've also got Gardevoir's GX attack.
Yeah, and also Mallow to search for them. So it's not like you're just blindly drawing into these 1 copies of cards. You can search them out. You can use things like Gallade's Premonition to look at your top 5 cards. And of course, Zoroark's trade ability gets you a constant flow of resources. So yeah, single card techs like that are pretty powerful in this kind of a deck.
Really does help. We do see Tord having a Gallade now in the active. He did get that Rare Candy with the Gallade. Obviously, Gardevoir a lot of the time is slightly better in this matchup because it does match up quite nicely against Lycanroc and against Buzzwole. But of course, you get that Premonition ability that allows you to just rearrange the top 5 cards of your deck with the Gallade there. And it's not a bad attacker at all, doing, I believe, 130 for a double colorless energy, as long as you've used the supporter this turn. So it's not the most immediately useful card right this second, but it certainly could come in handy later in the game.
Yeah, this is not like against Zoroark GX matchups where Gallade can get 1-hit knockouts, but it's still pretty annoying to deal with. It's going to get a 2-hit knockout on Buzzwole GX, and there's no clean answer for William. In a lot of ways, it's the most efficient attacker Tord can have against this kind of a deck, besides maybe Gardevoir GX.
But of course, when you're only playing 3 rare candy, it becomes quite difficult to actually judge when you get that Gardevoir. You've got to take advantage of getting the Gallade when you can. Speaking of taking advantage, Tord now has 3 Zoroark on the bench, which is pretty nice. He's going to be trading for potentially up to 6 cards per turn, but apparently he's going to play a Professor Sycamore for the full 7 cards first, and I believe that was the fabled empty hand Sycamore.
Yeah, his hand's not going to be empty very long. With 7 fresh cards, trades at his disposal, Tord is sitting on a lot of resources at this point, and he's going to be able to do pretty much anything he wants. And it's going to be up to William to kind of figure out how to navigate this matchup. With 3 Zoroark GX down, does he target down Zoroark GX and try to take away those trade abilities, or does he go after things like Ralts and Gallade?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of options here. It really depends what he wants to take off the board. I mean, one thing we have seen quite a lot here is that free damage counters on the Zoroark's actually quite big. It means a Jet Punch with a strong energy choice band Regirock will do exactly 180 and take the KO. So certainly that's something that William's going to be thinking about as we go through the game. Can I actually get a Jet Punch KO on a Zoroark now that it's got free damage counters on it? Certainly something to bear in mind. I mean, a lot of these Boswell decks do like to just spread damage around for a little bit. Take some, whittle down this HP of some of these Pokemon a little bit, and then just take 1 or 2 KOs with something like Knuckle Impact or Absorption GX. Tord here, he's, able to got access to a lot of cards. We do see the rare candy Gardevoir here. That is an impressive looking bench for Tord.
Not a bad turn 2 for Tord. He has evolved all 5 of his Pokemon, but no energy. So even after all of that, no attack from Tord, and now William might be able to jump out to a bit of a lead if he can find Lycanroc GX or Guzma here and the right combination of cards. Maybe take down one of those Zoroark GX and jump out to a bigger prize lead and attack while Tord seems to be missing some crucial cards.
And that is at least a little bit of a boost for William. Of course, you sit there and your opponent's going Zoroark, 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 2 stage 2s using rare candy. At least for William's point of view, Tord did miss the energy, which means he didn't get an attack off. William's now 1 prize up. And has he just hit his 3rd max elixir of the game?
Sure looks like it.
Ooh.
I think he's trying to figure out what he wants to do this turn. Does he want to try to knock out Gardevoir GX? He does have his GX attack available, and Dangerous Rogue GX from Lycanroc GX would actually get the knockout if he gets a strong energy or a choice band. And I think that's going to be a big swing in the game. There's no immediate answer from Tord if William's able to get Lycanroc GX powered up.
And then, of course, you can even use Claw Slash to start taking some KOs on those Zoroark and really start getting down to the last few prizes. We do see he's got a Guzma in hand, but he doesn't have enough energy, unfortunately, at the moment. And he doesn't even have a choice band either, so it's not like he could have used Absorption to get a KO on that Gardevoir either. We do see a Guzma coming down to bring that Zoroark into the active, and now it's a case of how much damage can he do? Can he get the KO on the Zoroark, or is he just going to keep spreading a bunch of damage around, softening them up to finish them off a little bit later?
Yeah, William could have gone for the choice band on his benched Buzzwole GX, and if he got a 3rd energy, he could have used Absorption GX to knock out the Gardevoir GX, but it looks like he missed everything he needed here and just has to settle for the Jet Punch. So this was a turn with a lot of promise, but William just has to settle for doing a lot of damage, but not enough for a knockout.
No, and I suppose the one saving grace is here that Tord's not had an attack here. Tord's got a lot of damage on the field. In terms of Pokemon out, Tord's loving this. He's got so many Pokemon, 3 trades per turn and Premonition to go with it, and several attackers, but it's all for naught if you don't have the energy. Now, the good news is, it looks like he's got a double colorless energy, and it actually looks like he's got that Mew EX in hand as well.
Yep.
The good news for William is he's actually kept those Rockruff on the bench and not evolved them yet, which means that Burning Shadows Lycanroc is potentially an option going forward because he could evolve up either of his Rockruff to whichever Lycanroc he likes.
I think one big card for Tord this turn is going to be Parallel City if he can find it. I think limiting William's bench here, yeah, and look at that. If he can force William to discard a couple of those Pokemon, it's really going to take away some of his options. I mean, what do you even discard if Tord plays Parallel City here? Anything is important at this point. Having a Rockruff available to evolve into either of those Lycanroc, having Octillery is important for the Abyssal Hand, Regiroc's Regipower is important for adding additional damage to hit those perfect numbers for knockouts, and there's no way you're discarding the Buzzwole with the 2 energy on it. So no matter what you discard, it's going to be all value for Tord.
Absolutely, and to be honest, I like having both the Rockruff down. One for the Lycanroc GX for Bloodthirsty Eyes and the big GX attack, and another one for, that Lycanroc, which you pointed out yourself earlier, is so good at taking down a Mew EX, which is a big threat on Tord's side of the field. So, Parallel City here, honestly, I'm looking at Williams' side of the field, and I really don't know what I'd want to discard here. I mean, I'd even be tempted to discard the Octillery, but then late game ends are just punishing.
And that's why we see Parallel City more and more. There's more decks playing Pokemon that like to sit on the bench. Even though Lycanroc GX can attack, its main use is for bloodthirsty eyes a lot of the time. We see more Zoroark GX and just more things that require bench space. And when you can play Parallel City and limit your opponent's bench to 3, sometimes you can put them in a very awkward position.
You absolutely can, and here comes that Parallel City we were talking about. So I suppose now we do get to see William making the decision, and
yeah, you can see he is not sure what to do here.
I don't blame him. I mean, Regirock, I think probably is going to go. You can always recover that. It's easily searched out with Brooklet Hill later on in the game.
Yeah, Regirock is the absolute easy choice here. Then it's between a Rockruff and Octillery.
And I think if I'm him, I'm probably dumping the Octillery and the Regirock, but I don't like it. I don't think either of those is actually a good choice here at all. The one thing that is interesting about Williams' deck, and we got a little peek of that, he does actually play 2 Regirock in his deck, and generally we see that the numbers work such that you only need 1, so he is going to be able to get that Regirock back quite easily after he replaces that stadium. But anything else, and yeah, we do see the Octillery going. I mean, as much as on the one hand I want to say, yay, I predicted it correctly, also, there's nothing good about discarding those 2 cards. They were painful discards.
And oh my goodness, Tord just has everything here. Gets the Mew EX with the double colorless energy, and Guzma onto the Buzzwole GX that has the 2 energy on it already. And we see Tord starting to turn the corner here. He's going to take this 2-prize knockout, and he's got a full setup here. All of his Pokemon on the bench are evolved, and what can William do from here?
I mean, unfortunately, it's going to be a very long uphill climb. You saw how excited Tord was with that Guzma. It's almost like he was worried that William might discard that Buzzwole to take those prizes off the board, and Tord was quite excited when those prizes were still left there. Interestingly enough, he did actually, it looks like, draw his 2 Bridget off his prizes, which they're going to be nice fodder to discard with trade, which is quite nice, but they're not really going to advance his board position other than that. Of course, I suppose we could follow that up with the question of, does he really need to advance his board position?
Probably not. The question for me is, what does William want to do here? So I think clearly he's going to get Lycanroc GX on this turn. Which Pokemon does he target down, though? Does he knock out the Mew EX, knowing that Guzma can bring out Buzzwole GX and get another easy knockout? Or does he go for the Gardevoir GX, which is probably the longer-term threat?
I'm thinking at the moment the Mew is something that William needs to take out. I mean, he is clearly going for the Gardevoir here. Cheers for that.
And I think if he wants to win the game, this is what he has to go for. He's going to force Tord to have some extra resources next turn. He's going to force Tord to have another Guzma to take down that Buzzwole GX. But beyond that, Tord doesn't have anything on the board that deals with Lycanroc GX easily. Gardevoir GX is his best attacker against Lycanroc. So getting rid of that while he can, that might be Williams' route to victory.
Absolutely. I mean, the issue with the Mew is Tord's going to have a Guzma. Between the trades, the puzzle of times, and everything else, he's going to have it when he needs it. But I think you're right. That Gardevoir is such a big threat in the late game. It's almost like Williams going to have to let Tord go down to 2 prizes remaining. But at least then there's a Lycanroc. Maybe it starts using Claw Slash to take out those Zoroarks on Tord's side of the field, at which point it's going to be hard to get rid of the Lycanroc. It's kind of been, it's going to be a 2-hit KO. Maybe you end up using Gallade Sensitive Blade, for instance, to get rid of it. We do, however, see William getting this Remoraid back here saying, look, I didn't want to get rid of that Octillery. I'd quite like to have it back next turn.
Yeah, you can actually see a path to victory for William at this point. He gets the 2-prize knockout here. Sure, Tord can then Guzma out the Buzzwole, but he'll go down to 2 prize cards and then doesn't have an easy knockout on Williams' 1 remaining Pokemon GX, so he probably won't be able to win in 2 turns, where, as William probably will be able to. He can get the knockout here, go down to 3 prize cards, and then Tord goes down to 2. Then William can just attach a strong energy, Claw Slash, knock out the Mew, who'll go down to 1, and then if Tord can't knock out the Lycanroc, it's just Guzma, game over.
Absolutely. Now, we have been mentioning that non-GX Lycanroc. It is actually in Williams' prizes, so it's not something he's got access to in this game. It's still in the prizes, so it is, you know, literally and figuratively off the board for the moment, but it doesn't look like he really needs it. He's got that Lycanroc, and it's going to be kind of a claw slash party, we think, for at least a turn or two here. It can take fairly easy, very easy KOs on any of those Zoroark on the bench, and then that Zoroark that's already got 140 HP on, damage on, that's a Jet Punch.
Yeah, the big thing is just William needs to draw well off of this N. If he can get his other Octillery into play, Abyssal Hand, he should be able to stabilize and perhaps take game number 1 when it looked perfect for Tord. But if William, misses a beat at all, looks like it's going to go game 1 to Tord.
Yeah, we're back in that situation where one player has the route to victory and the other player really has to hope they miss something, at which point it then very much opens up for them to maybe be able to make a bit of a comeback. As it stands, Tord doesn't really have a KO on the board other than those non-GXs, which aren't the best plans at the moment because then you're forcing yourself into a 7-prize game. We're probably just going to see a Sensitive Blade for 130, and hopefully Tord can then take out the Lycanroc next turn.
Yeah, and we see the big card in that top 5. I think Max Potion is going to be the game breaker in this scenario. I can see situations where William can take knockouts on one of those damaged Zoroark GX. He could even set up something like a 3-prize Jet Punch at some point, but Max Potion, I think, is going to be big in terms of blocking any sorts of fancy plays William might have in mind.
I like this a lot because when that Lycanroc's going to go down in 2 hits, at which point William will still need to take a KO. And the obvious thing was, well, like I said, it will just Jet Punch that Zoroark on the bench. That's not going to be an option after this Max Potion goes down, assuming it does, which you've got to think it's going to. And then, there we go. At which point we've then got, well, okay, now William's in a situation where we see where the next 2 prizes are coming from. Where's the last prize coming?
Yeah, that's going to be the question here. And also, he's only got 3 cards. I mean, if he could play a Guzma this turn and get a 2-prize knockout somehow, he will be in a position to win the game. But just given his hand, he's only got 3 cards. It seems unlikely. They'll probably have to just attack into the Gallade, and he probably doesn't have any way to even knock it out. So it's going to be pretty ugly for him. You see, this is where Gallade can come in handy. It's just got enough HP to withstand these attacks, and it does enough damage to make a difference.
I mean, he would need both of his Regirock to do it. If he had a strong energy and was able to get both of his Regirock, that would be Claw Slash for, I believe, 150, which would be just enough to get the KO. But we know Ron Regirock's in the discard. It's technically a way he could get the KO, but that's not going to be an easy way to knock out this Gallade.
I think there's actually both Regirock in the discard pile, too. He had to discard one early on. So he doesn't even have access to any of them.
Ooh, that is a little bit upsetting. So, okay. I mean, technically that would be the way he could do it, but unfortunately it's not something that's on the board at the moment. So, I mean, he's eyeing up that Watch and Learn Sudowoodo. That might be an option for taking a KO on something like a Zoroark that uses a Riotous Beating.
Yeah.
And we do see it coming down. I think he's got at least 1 Max Elixir left. I think he's got exactly 1 left.
Yeah, now I think the path to victory is going to involve evolving the Rockruff on the bench, using Bloodthirsty Eyes, and bringing out one of the Zoroark GX or the Mew EX, and taking a knockout with this Lycanroc GX after he attaches to it. And then on the next turn, if he can go Guzma and then find a way to get enough energy and Watch and Learn, he can knock out one of those Zoroark GX on the bench. And you can see William has a path to victory in these next 2 turns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's how he wins the game here. We see a Professor Sycamore coming down for 7, and that Octillery, which is going to be big, and a Super Odd, which could, well, I mean, it's a bit late to try and get the Regirock back now, but we do see a lot of options here. Does he have the Lycanroc, though?
Looks like he missed. He does find Octillery, so he could maybe play down to 4 cards in hand and try to draw a single card off of Abyssal Hand. And if it's the Lycanroc GX, that's going to be a big swing in the game. Otherwise, that Gallade for Tord is going to be the difference maker, and it's going to swing back into Tord's favor.
Absolutely. We do see that Octillery coming down here. And, I mean, he can't even double Regirock now after a Super Rod because he's only got one bench spot remaining. So he's not getting a KO here unless he can find that Lycanroc, get the Bloodthirsty Eyes going, drag that Zoroark into the active. We didn't see exactly what he just put down. Oh, it was a Tapu Lele he just benched, slightly out of sight there.
He's going to go for this. He's going to play out as many cards as he can, including this Super Rod. There is one Lycanroc GX left in his deck. He can Abyssal Hand for one card, and if William, his one card is Lycanroc GX or Ultra Ball, he'll get this crucial knockout, but the odds are certainly against him.
Yeah, it's going to be quite difficult. Having said that, we saw a game one earlier when the player needed a Guzma, used Abyssal Hand for one, drew the Guzma, so we've seen it before. What card is it? Don't hide it from us. We need to see it.
I don't think it was Lycanroc GX.
No, I think if it was, he probably would have used it. Oh, and that means that we see a Claw Slash for 130. Now we go back to Tord. Now Tord has got the option to win the game in 2 turns. He's going to be able to just Sensitive Blade to KO that Lycanroc, and then he's going to just be 2 prizes away from winning. And of course, he's got the Mew EX that can do that.
Yeah, so all William can really do from here is try to knock out the Mew EX on the following turn. If he can find the Lycanroc GX next turn and maybe power up the Sudowoodo or get some kind of Max Elixir play and bring out the Mew EX and knock it out, he can take away Tord's only way to really take a 2-prize knockout on the following turn. But it's an uphill battle from here. He just needs so much stuff to go his way, and then even then, if Tord has 2 Puzzle of Time in hand, he can get back the Mew EX, and it just seems like the writing is on the wall at this point. He's got 3 Zoroark GX out. He can trade so many times, and almost nothing can stop Tord from winning this game at this point.
It's going to be very, very difficult. We have just received an update. It turns out that Joe is actually up 1-0 in our other top 4 matchup. So we do see Joe 1-0 up against Philip with his Buzzwole Garbodor against Philip's Gardevoir Zoroark deck.
Yep. That's impressive. Philip is the #1 seed, and he's playing the exact same deck list as Tord, so it'd be interesting to see if Joe can take him down.
That will be a story if he can. Back to this game, we do see Tord, drawing cards. Stop me if you've heard that before from this Zoroark deck. And the good news is he just needs to play a supporter. That's all he needs this turn in order to take a KO. But of course, it's not just about this turn, it's about next turn. We do see that he does have a Guzma already in hand. That Mew EX on his bench will get a KO on the Buzzwole using that Guzma. So he does actually have everything he needs at the moment in hand to close this out with this turn and the next turn. So if you're William, you've almost got to kind of ignore the Gallade next turn and really try and take out that Mew to stop this play where just Mew KOs Buzzwole and wins next turn.
Yeah, he almost just needs too much. I think he needs to end next turn because Tord has far too many cards in hand. He needs to get Lycanroc GX to bring out the Mew. He needs to get a Max Elixir and an Energy. It's just so much he needs to even get a knockout next turn and prevent Tord from potentially winning, but Tord's just going to be proactive about this, use the Guzma, and go down to 2 prize cards here. He's going to say, I'm going to take away that option and make it so I win the game if I simply have Guzma next turn.
Yeah, I really like this play from Tord, of course. He knows Williams' deck quite well by now. There's no Ace to Roller, there's no Max Potion. Williams not healing off that Lycanroc. So whereas Tord before, had he lost the Mew, maybe it's too difficult to take those final 2 prizes. Now there's that Lycanroc on the bench, and it can be KO'd by a Gallade, or it can be KO'd by a Zoroark, or to be honest, it could even be KO'd by a Tapu Lele with a double colorless energy.
Yeah, and Tord used 2 Puzzle of Time to get back 2 Guzma, so that even if William plays N, now his own Tapu Lele GX is an out to get those Guzma, just maximizing his odds of drawing the game-winning card next turn.
And this is what Tord does. He's given himself every opportunity to win. William can end Tord down to 2 cards, but he's got 3 trades available. And we saw, instead of hoping to hit the puzzle of time next turn, he uses them to get the Guzma, which means they're already in his deck, ready to draw if he gets end. And that Lycanroc, it's not going to be healed, and it's just going to be too easy for Tord. It's just going to be a Guzma. There's way too many Pokemon in his bench that can get the KO. Tord's deck sometimes has trouble taking these big KOs with these Pokemon that are hitting 120, 130. That is not going to be difficulty this game. So I think it's fair to say that unless something very bad happens here, Tord's going to win game 1 on his next turn.
Yeah, and William looked through his discard pile. He found his multi-switch, which would have been one way for him to power up his Sudowoodo and perhaps knock out this Mew EX. As it stands, left to find his final max elixir. And if he doesn't, I mean, the writing is on the wall here. He needs so much. He needs 1 fewer card because now the Mew EX is active. So if he can go max elixir and N toward, oh no, the Guzma is going to go after that Zoroark GX. That's probably going to wrap up this game. Now Tord just has like 12 cards in his hand, and we know 2 of them are Guzma.
Yeah, we know Tord's got the Guzma. We know he's got 2 Guzma, as does William, because he used double puzzle of time to get them. And here we go. Tord does take game 1 with that Guzma, KOing Lycanroc with whatever he feels like. And he now does take the advantage in game 1. So as it stands at the moment, we've got Tord Reklev with his Zoroark Gardevoir list being 1 game up on William Azevedo and his Buzzwole Lycanroc list. And in the other top 4 game, we have got Joe with his Buzzwole Lycanroc deck being 1 game up against Philip with his Gardevoir Zoroark. So same matchups going on twice, but they're going in different directions at the moment.
So far, yeah. The impressive thing for that game is Tord drew almost a perfect hand throughout the game. He had his entire field evolved on the second turn of the game. There were 2 stage 2s and 3 Zoroark GX in play on the second turn of the game. He did miss an attack turn 2, but it's hard to beat that setup. And William was able to make the game close in spite of Tord's perfect start. So you got to think, if Tord ever stumbles at all in this matchup, if he doesn't get that turn to stage 2 and all the Zoroark GX, if he potentially misses Bridget on the first turn for once, maybe William can capitalize on that. But he has to win 2 games in a row against Tord Reklev. That is not easy to do.
Not an easy thing to do. I suppose the good news is we do have that longer time limit in these top cut games, so we do have a little bit more time here. But yeah, 2 games in a row, and it's a point we've made before, but it's a point I think we need to make again. If there's a game 3, Tord's going to be going first, because he won game 1, which means he'll have to lose game 2, and that means that he's going to get the first evolution. It's going to put him kind of in the driver's seat if there is a game 3. Of course, yeah, I mean, Tord's setup was just ridiculous. He got Rare Candy Gallade and Rare Candy Gardevoir, and if I remember correctly, were they not even in the same turn?
Yeah, it was turn 2, yeah.
It's just silly.
Yeah, you can't ask for much better. Now, William here in game number 2, I mean, in game 1, I think he played pretty much as well as he could. He gave himself every opportunity to win that game. If things had gone a little bit differently, we could have seen him take game 1. He was just 1 or 2 cards away from pulling the crucial knockouts. The game looked worse than it really was. William, in particular, missing that Lycanroc GX on that crucial turn to get a knockout. That could have put him in position to win. But it really went back to that one turn with Parallel City. If Tord had not drawn the Parallel City on that one crucial turn, William would have been left with his Octillery. He would have had the Regirock on board. It would have been a completely different scenario.
And had he had a Regirock on board, and I know he had Regirock in hand the turn that Parallel City went down, so maybe he would have been able to pull off that double Regirock play to KO the Gallade, and that could have been a little bit different. Whether you really want both Regirock on your bench at the same time, that is a different question. You generally only want to dedicate 1 bench space to that. But either way, it was very close. William had a lot of options. Tord just did everything he needed to beat it. It's certainly not going to be outside the realms of possibility that William goes and wins this game. Good news for him, his prize is not too bad at all.
Yeah, a couple energy, but otherwise nothing extremely relevant. Now, Tord does have to mulligan here, so William will start the game with an extra card, and since he'll go first, he'll have an opportunity to play out those cards. Always a welcome sight to see your opponent mulligan, especially when you're going first.
Yeah, because you get an extra card. Mulligan being where your opponent draws an opening hand that doesn't have a basic Pokemon in it. It means that they get to draw a fresh hand of 7 cards, and you get an extra card, kind of like an apology. Of course, if you mulligan and give your opponent extra cards, you often want to play an end to reset that. But if you're going first, you get the extra card, and you definitely get to use it. It's kind of the perfect opportunity here.
All right, so Tord does find a basic Pokemon. We're going to kick off game number 2 here between William and, Mew EX and 2 Zoroark GX in the prize cards for Tord. I think the Mew EX is the important card here. We've seen Tord use that countless times to deal with Buzzwole GX. Now he won't have access to it.
And that is going to hurt. And of course, the 2 Zoroark, we saw him having 4 Zoroark, or at least 3 Zoroark in play, using those trade abilities. He's going to be limited to 2 if he can find both of them. So that is going to be a plot to watch as we go through this. Good news for William as he starts. He's got a Regirock, which he chooses to put in the active. He's got a Buzzwole on the bench. That's so that if he plays a Guzma, he can then have the the Buzzwole in the active. And we see an Ultra Ball coming down here, and he's got to use it to grab a Tapu Lele so he can grab a Professor Sycamore, draw himself some more cards.
William has to breathe in a sigh of relief there as he Ultra Balls. He has no supporter card in hand. He only plays 1 Tapu Lele GX in his deck. If that weren't his prize cards here, this would have been looking a lot different, but he has the Tapu Lele GX in his deck. He's able to Wonder Tag, and the game is going to look much different now.
And he does play this Max Elixir. Of course, he's got a Floatstone in his hand, so that's going to be useful. Another reason why the Regirock might be in the active.
Yeah.
And we do see, no, he whiffs the Max Elixir, does not get the energy there, unfortunately. I mean, he was hitting him at a pretty good clip last game, so missing 1 or 2, I think, it's acceptable.
Yeah, and a pretty good start from William. He does get the energy down onto his Buzzwole GX. I think he wants to look for a Rockruff and Remoraid if he can. Maybe try to get a Max Elixir, but otherwise, this is really all you're hoping for with Buzzwole GX. Just get an energy attachment on the first turn, and particularly when you go first, you like to use that first turn to grab to play a supporter and draw cards, so that turn 2 you can have a Guzma in hand ready to target down a basic Pokemon and knock it out with Jet Punch.
Absolutely. Have just got a quick update on the other game. In game 2, Joe has 1 prize remaining. Philip has 4 prizes remaining. So Joe is getting very close to booking his ticket into the final, which will be played live on stream tomorrow. So I suppose that Joe's in a great position. Tord's in a good position, but William's got a good start going on here.
Yeah, he actually hit 2 Max Elixirs after the Professor Sycamore. So he ends his first turn with 3 energy in play. That's got to be scary for Tord, but he's going to start off the same way he always does. Here comes a Bridget.
It does come a Bridget, but this is very, very different to last game. 2 Bridget's prize, but I've got one in my hand after the end. Here, he's got 2 Tapu Lele on the field now. He started Tapu Lele, then he had to play a second Tapu Lele to grab a Bridget, which essentially only gives him 4 Pokemon slots for the game, unless he uses his Parallel City on himself to get rid of those 2 Tapu Lele later on in the game. Probably not something he's going to be itching to do, given how great Parallel City was against William, in that previous game. Good news, though, Tord does have that Bridget. He's going to get those basic Pokemon. He's going to start getting set up, and hopefully maybe even get himself a Fairy Energy or something to start building up those Pokemon. Downside, of course, William has potentially got a Guzma next turn to try and start taking down Tord's Pokemon before he gets any evolutions.
Yeah, so we do have a stoppage here. I said that William had hit 2 Max Elixir. That was actually incorrect. He had actually attached a second energy card for the turn. So the judges have caught this, and we're going to go back and try to rewind this situation. He did play 2 Max Elixir, but the first one missed, and the second one hit, but you're only allowed to attach 1 energy from your hand per turn, so he's going to have to return one of those, and there might be some kind of penalty here. We'll let the judges sort that out, but either way, a great start for William. Getting multiple energy in play on the first turn is exactly what you want, and Tord is going to start off with a Bridget once again, but I think William's going to be in a good position no matter what happens here.
He's had a very good start. Of course, one thing to note about penalty guidelines, they are escalated according to the tournament. International Championships top 4, we generally do see slightly harsher penalties here because, of course, we are in the real latter stages of, except for the World Championships, as big a tournament as you get, which is why you do see these large penalties slightly more regularly in these tournaments. Quick update on the other game. We do see that Philip has taken 2 prizes, so Philip has 2 prizes remaining to Joe's 1 in that second game of the other top 4, where we do see that Joe is up 1 game to 0. I like having these updates, especially when we've got a little bit of a break in the action. It's certainly when I'm sitting at home watching the streams and it goes to top 4, I'm always sitting there thinking, okay, but what's happening in the other top 4 game? I want all the information that I can.
And it looks like this has been resolved. William has to return one of the energy cards to his hand. I think he'll be given some kind of penalty, but the important thing was the game didn't get far enough where we couldn't rewind at game state. Nothing else happened. He didn't shuffle his hand into his deck or anything like that. It was simply one of the energy he played goes back to his hand, and everything should be good. And you can't blame someone in this high-pressure situation. You know, you're on stream, you got the headphones on under the lights, you're in the top 4 against a player who's won the last 2 international championships, down a game. And it's very easy to make mistakes and get in your own head. But it'll be important for William to compose himself and get everything together and kind of shake off that mistake.
And I did receive confirmation in my ear there. It was just a warning given. Good thing is, attaching extra energy from your hand, it's a little bit naughty, but it's very easily reversed. You just take the energy off the Boswell and put it back into your hand. So nothing above a warning there. And Tor's playing his Bridget, and he's grabbed himself a couple of Zorua and 1 Ralts. Of course, this is his first search of the game, and he is going to be seeing here that actually this is not a great situation. He knows that he's got those 2 Zoroark prized, but it's always nice to have a Ralts on the bench anyway, because maybe, and we've seen this with Tor himself on stream, sometimes you just end up drawing Rare Candy Gardevoir, and that means you get kind of a cheeky stage 2 a little bit earlier than you may otherwise have done so.
Yeah, and the big news he's going to find out is that Mew EX is in his prize cards. That's his #1 weapon against Buzzwole, and he won't have access to it in this game. It's going to make it much more difficult to deal with this early onslaught from the Ultra Beast, and I really don't know how he can respond unless he can find a quick Rare Candy Gardevoir. Otherwise, we're going to see a lot of jet punches taking down these Fighting Weak Zorua with no real response on Tord's side.
It's going to be rough when you're up against the Boswole that is, using those jet punches unchecked. It's very, very difficult. We have had confirmation, however, that Joe has booked his place in the final. Philip Schultz has unfortunately lost in top 4. So in the other matchup, we saw Boswole Lycanroc take down Zoroark Gardevoir. We have 1 finalist booked, which means the only Pokemon TCG Masters action at the moment is here. And speaking of here, we do see a Guzma coming down the single energy Boswole going into the active, using a jet punch to KO that Zorua and put 30 damage onto the other Zorua. This is nice because it means Tord is limited to a maximum of 1 trade next turn. This is going to be a little bit awkward for Tord because William's got a very good setup, but unlike in the previous game, Tord does not have anywhere near as good a setup.
Nope, not at all. And it's really going to come down to what Tord does this turn. Can he find Rare Candy and at least Gallade? Potentially, oh no, actually going to trade away a Rare Candy. Faked me out here. But can he get a Stage 2 in play this turn? Zoroark GX is not going to fight against Buzzwole GX very effectively, but any of those Stage 2 Pokemon can get the job done, and it looks like Tord does have the cards lined up. He's got an Ultra Ball, he's got a Rare Candy, he's even got Professor Sycamore. He just has to decide, does he want Gardevoir or does he want Gallade?
That is a big decision here. He's got the double colorless energy in hand, which is great for Gallade. I think a lot of the time here, Gardevoir is a really good Pokemon to go for. It's got such high HP, and it can really punish things like Lycanroc that want to use Claw Slash with free energy, just do not match up well, and it looks like Tord's agreeing here. He's gone and searched out that Gardevoir, 230 HP, and it's not just that it's a good attacker with high HP. Firstly, it gives you that extra energy attachment per turn, which does does not have to go on the Gardevoir. It can go anywhere on your field. And secondly, it means that, you've got this situation where your opponent's going, oh, well, I want to attach a second energy with this Max Elixir, but then I'm more vulnerable to Gardevoir, and he's got one on his field, and it's very difficult to, play when there's a Gardevoir on the other side of the field, making you question all of your choices.
Yeah, I think there's got to be a sick feeling in the pit of William's stomach at this point. 2 games in a row, your opponent with not a dedicated Gardevoir deck has gotten turn 2 Rare Candy and Stage 2 in both of these games. Tord does commit the double colorless energy to Tapu Lele GX, which is a fine attacker against Buzzwole GX early on. So he'll be able to get a little bit of damage on there, but so far, Tord looks like he has an excellent setup with that Stage 2 Pokemon in play, and William's going to have to figure out what to do about this.
And that is upsetting. As good as a start William had, he goes up by a prize, which, to be fair, Buzzwole decks should go up by at least 1 prize. But then you see as a Tapu Lele on the other side of the field doing 80 damage. And we've seen this a lot this weekend. A lot of players are choosing to go, you know what? Tapu Lele actually does more damage to Buzzwole than Buzzwole does to Tapu Lele until you've got free energy on there. So I'm going to use this to soften you up. Now, of course, something like a Riotous Beating would get a fairly easy KO on that Buzzwole, or indeed something like a Gardevoir is going to come in, get a fairly easy KO without having to dedicate too much energy to it. And then you're losing your 2 prize Pokemon, your opponent's getting a couple of prizes. This is a very, very nice way for Tord to start off this game, and even though he had quite a slow setup initially and some prizes which were, to put it mildly, less than ideal, he's pulling back into this game quite nicely indeed.
I think William would love to have a Guzma plus strong energy here to knock out that Gardevoir GX with the Absorption GX. I just don't think he has the cards in hand to do it. Going to play the Max Elixir, and I think his supporter for the turn is Professor Sycamore, and he misses on the Max Elixir. Can't get that strong energy since it's not a basic energy. So William, the story of the match for him so far has just been slightly missed opportunities, just 1 card short here and there, whereas Tord has not missed a beat at all, and this might be the difference in the end result.
Absolutely, it might. I mean, William here, he's really running out of options. It's much less likely here that he's going to be able to get these big attacks. I mean, he could still Absorption GX. He did draw into the strong energy, but of course, it's a fairly moot point at this stage because, okay, you can KO that Tapu Lele, but then Gardevoir's probably going to KO you right back, and then you've used your GX attack for the game. It's a really...
Well, he did draw Floatstone, and he does have an energy, so he could retreat and just Knuckle Impact for the knockout on the Tapu Lele GX. As you said, it's pretty risky. If Tord has enough cards to get enough energy on to Gardevoir GX, he can then respond with an Infinite Force knockout. But from this situation, if you're William, you might need to take some risks here. He'll have to figure out if this is one he wants to take.
Yeah, that is going to be the issue here. Of course, when you're down 1-0, you do sometimes, like you say, just need to take a chance. You don't want to be taking chances in top 4s of such a large tournament, but sometimes it's what you've got to do to get yourself back into the game. There is only 1 energy on that Gardevoir at the moment, and there is only 1 Zoroark on Tord's side of the field, so his trading options are somewhat limited. I think if you're William, Jet Punch just doesn't do enough here, and there's still a chance that Tord can just get a bunch of energy in play and get the KO anyway. So I think maybe something like an Absorption or a Knuckle Impact could be the way to go.
It's like William going to take the more conservative route, though, attaching strong energy to the Rockruff instead of going for a big knockout on this turn. And that is probably going to swing the prize trade back into Tord's favor. It looks like William's actually just going to retreat into the Buzzwole GX without all the damage on it, go for a Jet Punch. And even this is a little bit risky. If Tord has double colorless, Fairy Energy, and Choice Band, he can get to a knockout here on this Buzzwole GX. But William did look at his discard pile and saw that there's a Fairy Energy in there, there's a Choice Band, and there's a double colorless energy and a Fairy Energy on the active Tapu Lele GX. So the odds of Tord pulling this off are very low. But who knows, if there's a Mallow, it could be disastrous for William.
It really could. Of course, every
Oh,
time we
boy.
say the odds are low, it kind of comes back to haunt us. We see at the moment in his hand, in Tord, he does have the double colourless energy, but not the other pieces. And William there just playing the odds. That Gardevoir can get a KO this turn, but there is quite the combo. If Tord had 3 or 4 Zoroark on the bench, maybe this isn't a risk that William takes, because those trade abilities are really going to up the chances of it happening. However, we do see a Tapu Lele coming down here, and it looks like it's going to be a Mallow for a Puzzle of Time. And, of course, we know he's got 1 Puzzle of Time in his hand, so that will give him the double.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that might actually give him all 3 cards he needs, because he's got the double colourless in hand. He needs a Fairy Energy and a Choice Band. If those cards are already in his discard, I think Tord might actually be able to pull this off here, get the KO on the Buzzwole.
I might have been thinking a little small there. Tord's going to have all of it and then some. If he can pair this knockout with an enhanced hammer to discard the strong energy on the Rockruff, the door is going to close on William quickly, or even something like a parallel city to reduce his bench size. There's so many things. Tord just has so many cards in his hand already. He's got the double colorless energy. He's got 1 Puzzle of Time where he can Mallow for 1 Puzzle of Time and then an extra card. This is not going to be a fun turn for William, but Tord should be able to get the knockout here. The only downside is that he did have to bench a 4th Pokemon in order to take this knockout, so that does open him up to Lycanroc GX's Dangerous Rogue GX. Can knock out the Gardevoir GX, and then as we've said before, Tord doesn't have any great responses to Lycanroc GX when his Gardevoir gets knocked out.
Yeah, that is absolutely a great point there. I mean, we do see, I think Tord was eyeing up a Field Blower as his second card there, trying to get rid of some of those float stones, maybe that Brooklet Hill to stop more of those fighting Pokemon coming out.
Yeah, maybe even just the float stones to prevent free retreating and Max Elixir, setting up a Pokemon to Max Elixir to the bench so then you can retreat with float stone. Discarding float stone ends up being a pretty big play a lot of the time.
Yeah, especially on a deck that relies on Max Elixir, which can only attach basic energy to your benched basic Pokemon. So we are going to see a single trade here, but of course after the Mallow, we know exactly what Tord's going to get. I believe it's a Puzzle of Time and a Field Blower, which means he's going to have everything he needs. And he had the Enhanced Hammer in hand already, which is why he didn't grab it with the Mallow. So he's actually going to get rid of the Float Stones and the Strong Energy while taking a KO. This is a monstrous turn for Tord.
It's not fair, Ross. He has everything every time.
He really does. And of course, at the beginning of the game, I said, well, Tord's deck, he's not gone for full consistency. What I mean by that is he's playing stage 2s and stage 1s. Obviously, he's made a deck which is very consistent. Of course, a 4/4 Zoroark line and free Bridget. That'll help.
Oh, he can actually just commit all the energy to the Tapu Lele GX instead. That is 6 energy and 2 on the Buzzwole, plus the Choice Band, so that is exactly 190 damage. Now he doesn't have to put his Gardevoir GX in danger. Yikes. This is a scary Pokemon to deal with as well. Now William needs to deal with this Tapu Lele GX, leaving the Gardevoir pretty safe.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe a 2 energy Tapu Lele with a Choice Band would be able to get the KO for William here if he's able to hit some kind of Max Elixir, or I believe he plays Multi-Switch in his deck.
Yeah, and with the 40 damage on there, he doesn't even need Choice Band. Just 2 energy, that would be 8 combined, so that would be a clean knockout.
Yeah, of course he needs to get the 2 energy here, which is obviously the big challenge. It's not that easy. If in a deck that plays double colorless energy, Tord probably wouldn't have made this play, because the chances of just a Tapu Lele with a double colorless energy return KO just too high. As it stands, getting a Max Elixir or a multi-switch with that second energy, it's not that likely, but it looks like at the moment, unless we see a similarly Max Elixir or multi-energy with a Lycanroc, which is pretty much off the table now in terms of Max Elixir, that would be the only way for William to respond. And it looks like he's going to face down this Zoroark, but he's leaving the Gardevoir and the Tapu Lele on the bench not being hit. Or at least not being hit for more than 30 damage.
Yeah, I think William's trying to find some way to get knockouts here without committing extra energy. If he puts all of his energy on a single Pokemon, it's very likely that Gardevoir GX can respond with a knockout. If he can attach an energy somewhere and get a knockout with this Buzzwole GX that's got the energy on it already, perhaps he can make some magic happen, but this just does not look good for our Brazilian player at this point. Tord has gotten another perfect start in this game, and you can see when this deck draws exactly what it needs to draw, it is nearly unstoppable.
It really is, and it's attackers. It's having options. Tord is now in a position where, Tapu Lele's gone down, that's all right, I can probably respond with a Gardevoir. Gardevoir goes down, that's right, I can definitely respond with the Tapu Lele. And then, of course, he's got Zoroark for trading, and it's just too many things at this stage. There's a Buzzwole there that's already got 8 damage counters on, so that's only got 110 HP remaining. That's not going to be terribly difficult to KO. And, of course, the Mew is going to come out of his prizes. We know it's going to come out, well, assuming he takes the prizes as we think he will. The Mew is going to come out the next time he takes the KO. So, of course, there's your last KO on a Buzzwole. Tord's route to victory here seems to be mapped out pretty nicely. Williams taken one prize and, okay, he pops a strong energy on the Lycanroc. That could maybe make a play next turn. Tord could win in 2 turns here.
Yeah, the only hope for William now is he did play the N. He has to hope that Tord just misses once. Just misses a double colorless energy or a Floatstone or a Guzma. If he goes 1 turn without finding something, this could be the opening William needed to come back. But, I mean, with a trade and an N to 4, it just seems so likely that Tord will draw something to move this Zoroark GX out of the active position.
And given the fact that we've watched Tord for long enough to know he'll probably get what he needs to finish out this game. Of course, once again, we see this vaunted Brooklet Hill for nothing play, just so you can search through your deck. Brooklet Hill, like we said before, your deck is a secret. Tord knows he's not playing any Fighting or Water Basics. William knows Tord's not playing any Fighting or Water Basics, but that's all right. It means he can still look through his deck, assess his options, count the outs that he's got, and that is going to inform his play. He can see what is statistically likely to happen. So this is pretty nice for him, to be perfectly honest. It gives him that extra information that informs his play in what might end up being the closing stages of this top 4 game.
Yeah, as Tord was flipping through his deck there, I did notice a lot of the cards he needed were still in there. I saw both double colorless energy, Floatstone, a couple Guzma. So he might not have any of them in hand. He might be completely reliant on this trade right here to draw one of those crucial cards he needs to move this Zoroark GX to the bench so he can attack once again. Can he find it? Yeah, nothing yet. He does have Professor Sycamore, though, so even if he fails the trade, he can Sycamore for 7 more cards, and he'll probably find double colorless energy or a Floatstone. He even draws Guzma off of the trade.
That is big.
So the beats keep coming from Tord.
And a Parallel City as well, which could be quite punishing for William here.
Yeah, although a Guzma here actually doesn't get any knockouts, I believe. It would push the Buzzwole GX to the bench, so there's no easy target for a knockout for Tord. So Guzma actually not the best card to draw for him here.
No, he really needs to get that Zoroark out of the active. Of course, Guzma plus Parallel City would not be a good play because that Buzzwole with all the damage on would go right in the discard. So, I mean, he could play the Professor Sycamore. He does play 1 copy of Floatstone. So maybe he could play the Professor Sycamore to search for that Floatstone or even just a double colorless energy because, let's face it, he's going to get the KO. Well, he would need 1 more basic, but he's got at least a routes in hand. So that's doable. So it could be here that he actually, no, he is going for the Guzma. He's bringing that Lycanroc up into the active, and I don't know what exactly he's going to be trying to attack it with here. He is going for the Tapu Lele, it looks like. Now, that Tapu Lele's got 6 energy. He's only hitting 170 at the moment, 7 energy total plus the choice band. So, I mean, with another double colorless energy, he would actually get the KO. I mean, it's like we're playing with Mewtwo EX again.
Yeah, I don't think Tord really cares about getting the knockout here. No. It's just he wants to soften up the Lycanroc GX. He knows he's far enough ahead in this race where if he can soften up one of William's attackers and make it so that William can never get 2 attacks off with the same Pokemon, he's just going to eventually win the game. So we're going to see a big attack, not quite enough for a knockout, but what can William do to respond?
Going to be tough. And of course, one point we've already made. William's not playing any healing cards. There's no Ace Roller. There's no Max Potion here, which means that Tord, and by now Tord knows that. So Tord knows that damage is staying on there. It's not like when you're playing against one of these Zoroark Golisopod decks that plays multiple Ace Roller and a whole bunch of Puzzle of Time. That damage is staying there. Tord's got 4 prizes remaining, and there's 2 heavily damaged EXs on William's side of the field, at which point Tord can basically take KOs with whatever he feels like. And although William might have a fairly easy KO on the Tapu Lele and might have a fairly easy KO on that bent Zoroark, that's 4 prizes. William needs 5, and Tord's going to be taking KOs in the meantime. I still think Tord's in a great position to win this game. I think he's got the easier route to victory.
Yeah, Tord is definitely favored in this game. Just can William find any way to claw his way back into this game? It all turned around on that big turn where Tord was able to get that Gardevoir GX out. And that Tapu Lele GX has been putting in quite a bit of work. The other problem is William's hand currently is terrible. He has a bunch of cards he can't play. He's using this Super Rod, and I think he has a Brooklet Hill. And I think it's just going to be Abyssal Hand for 2 cards. And he doesn't even have an energy in his hand. He needs to draw something here to even have a chance to stay in this game.
It's just rough at this stage. I mean, if he played double colorless energy, he could Claw Slash, but he doesn't. Maybe if he's got an energy and a multi-switch, he can get a Claw Slash off with Lycanroc, but then he's just leaving that heavily damaged Lycanroc in the active to get very easily KO'd by a Gardevoir. So I mean, at this stage, maybe he can start using Jet Punch again, get some more damage on the field, but he doesn't really have enough energy to do any big attacks and really start taking KOs with his Pokemon. Even that Tapu Lele's still got 100 HP remaining, which is not the easiest thing to KO. Jet Punch takes a while to get up to 100 damage, so we're looking at William's side of the field here, and he gets a second energy, and it's got to be a dangerous rogue KO on the Tapu Lele.
That's really all he can do to stay in the game. I mean, he's got to take a knockout here. He can't just let Tord attack again without putting up any sort of comeback. This is not looking good for him, but the other option was to just lose right away.
Yeah, and, you know, as much as you don't really like using your only GX attack of the game to KO a heavily damaged Tapu Lele, it was literally the only way to get a KO. Of course, this Gardevoir is going to come up now. It's already hitting for 90, which is more than enough to take the KO. So this single energy Gardevoir will get the KO, and we do see the Max Potion coming down here, completely healing that heavily damaged Zoroark.
Yeah, and that's just one more obstacle for William to fight through. That was one of the potential targets for him to go after for easy prize cards with a Jet Punch, and now the damage has just disappeared. Tord always having the answer every single turn, and he's just a couple knockouts away from advancing to his third consecutive finals at the International Championships. An absolutely unheard of streak, and it's all on the back of excellent play and, I'm going to say, a few fortunate draws in these games as well, but he is playing excellently.
And he's maximizing his options. We look at his deck, 4-4 Zoroark. He's playing Mallow. He's playing 4 Puzzle of Time. Well, he's getting some good draws, but he has made his deck in a way that maximizes his chances of getting those good draws. Now, we do see the Professor Sycamore here, and there's not a huge amount in there. He does have a Float Stone if he wants to retreat his Gardevoir. Not that I think he would. He's got a fairly nice KO. And then, of course, how does William KO the Gardevoir? It's going to be very difficult. His GX marker has been flipped. There's no GX attack coming here. That Gardevoir's got 200 HP at the moment. So it would need a Knuckle Impact with a strong energy and a Choice Band here, or double Regirock, in order to get the KO on that Gardevoir. And, yeah, that's going to be quite difficult. Tord's going to go down to 2 prizes here. And I do like this Zorua going down onto the bench, because maybe next turn it becomes a Zoroark. Maybe next turn it gives him an extra trade, especially if William were to drop an N and, you know, drop Tord's hand down to 2 cards with that N.
Yeah, Tord is trying to figure out if he should play this Ultra Ball here, and he does decide to do it. I think he might have been thinking, if my opponent plays a Guzma to take a knockout, then I just have my own Ultra Ball for a Tapu Lele GX, and then I can probably Guzma for the win. but decides he wants to thin out his deck a little bit, discard some probably irrelevant cards at this point, get another Zorua down as more insurance so he can get a few Zoroark GX into play, trade a couple more times. Keep in mind, he's done all of this with just one Zoroark GX in play the entire time. Just one trade per turn, and he's just been able to draw into exactly what he needs.
He has. It's been a great game for Tord. He's been able to get what he needs. He's been able to really take advantage of his resources. Of course, we talk about sequencing in the game, the order in which you play your cards. That has been on display here for Tord. Playing out his hand to make sure he gets everything he needs. There was that time we had one trade and we're like, oh, he needs a double colorless energy and a fairy energy and a choice band. That's going to be difficult. No, we only needed to mallow for one card in order to actually pull it off here. So we see a Floatstone coming down onto the Zoroark, and really tall. Oh, and a second Rouse here coming down as well. Of course, now the GX marker has been flipped. Dangerous Rogue is not an issue. And then we get the KO, and Tord is down to 2 prizes left.
Yeah, I think the only thing William can do here, he needs to find Guzma this turn. He needs to get an energy on that other Buzzwole GX. That's his only Pokemon that's really capable of withstanding an attack at this point. If he can Jet Punch, knock out one of those basic Pokemon, and then put 30 damage onto the Zoroark GX, if he dodges a Guzma from Tord on the following turn, which is not a guarantee, he could get knockouts in back-to-back turns and potentially win the game. Otherwise, I don't see him really powering up a Buzzwole GX this turn for a Knuckle Impact. Even if he does, then even Zoroark GX with Ride is Beating can finish off the damaged one. But I think it's all got to be a Guzma this turn. I don't see any other real way for William to pull this one off.
No, not at all, I'm afraid. He needs to KO a Zorua this turn. He could even maybe try and get a 2-hit KO on a Routes on the bench, just hoping that it doesn't get evolved, which, of course, with free rare candy and no Curlier is far from a given. We do see an N here. That's going to put Tord down to 2 cards remaining in his deck, lower the odds of him having a Guzma, but it also means that William is not taking that prize on the Zorua that he needed to take.
This is actually brilliant. This is another way William could win. I don't think his odds are great, but with all the Regirock Strong Energy Choice Band, he's using Jet Punch for 100, and that means it's a 2-hit knockout on the Gardevoir GX. So if he can do 100 and probably 30 to a Ralts, since that's the least likely thing to evolve, he can set up a 3-prize Jet Punch on the following turn. Again, he needs to dodge a lot of things from Tord. Max Potion, Guzma for the game, all sorts of things. But this is the one play William could do to give himself a chance to win, and Tord's going to need something to respond. Otherwise, William's going to steal this game.
Absolutely, and we do see the 2-hit kill on the Routes there. Like we said, it's not that likely to evolve. Of course, the Guzma here makes this a moot point.
It's a big trade.
What does he see? Oh, I can't see his hand. I know he had at least one puzzle of time in there. I don't know if he drew a second. If he doesn't evolve that Route or get the Gardevoir out the active or play a Guzma, then he passes and William just says Jet Punch and takes us to a game 3 with very, very little time remaining. And, he's not showing us his hand.
I know Tord has a rare candy in hand, but he does not have a stage 2 to go with it. Oh, we do see double colorless energy. He might be forced to retreat. And yeah, he's going to play the N for the turn. This almost assures that William will not lose this turn. Even with the Fairy Energy and a Choice Band, that's not enough damage. It'll go up to 180 with Infinite Force. So William has found the one way to perhaps win this game, and Tord is now on the back foot. For once in the match, he has missed the game-winning card. And can William capitalize?
And that means, of course, that during the next turn, if Williams managed to grab a Guzma, and he's got Octillery, so those 2 cards are not the only one he's got. I like this play, just putting that in the active, because it's going to get KO'd anyway. But a Guzma from William here will see 3 prizes and take us to a game 3. Go on, William, show us your hand. What do you have? Do we see the Guzma there? Oh, you got to think he'd have slammed it down if he had it. Oh, that is not great. But he can attach an energy and a Abyssal Hand for 2 cards. It's an N and a Floatstone.
Not quite what he's looking for. I think he probably will want to play the N here, though, so that he can potentially draw into Guzma for the next turn. I don't know if he wants to jet punch here and take the knockout on the Ralts. Then it just allows Tord to promote a different Pokemon, and it even opens up bench space for Mew EX, which he does not want to do. So I think William probably wants to pass the turn and leave the board the way it is and kind of hope nothing changes, and that next turn he can get that game-winning Guzma. He was so close.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. That was setting up for a beautiful free prize turn. I was thinking about the Mew, of course. Tord had already attached a double colorless energy to the Gardevoir last turn. Mew wasn't an option, but it did get me thinking that, Tord benched all of those Pokemon earlier on to maximize his odds of hitting what he needed, but maybe saving a bench space for a Mew to KO a Buzzwole could have been one option. If he draws a double Puzzle of Time, he can grab a Mew and a double colorless energy from his discard and then potentially go and get a KO. That's not an option at the moment, not with a full bench, and William does choose to take the KO.
He's going to jet punch. This leaves the opening for the Mew EX. Can Tord get it down? Ooh, that doesn't look good.
Oh, 2 Zoroark, though.
Actually,
He's
that
got
looks
lots
excellent.
of
Oh, my
trades.
goodness.
That is a really great draw. We heard the crowd reacting there. They knew what those Zoroarks meant. Lots of potential trades. And I think we might be seeing another Brooklet Hill. I wonder if he'll get anything from it.
Wow. So now the end of 2 turns into 6 additional cards for Tord. Ross, do you think he's going to draw what he needs off of these 3 trades?
You've got to think he will. I mean, as it stands at the moment, it's not actually a KO on the board. He will need some energy here.
Right.
But,
2 not great cards to start.
He's still got 4 more cards, though, so it looks like he gets the Mallow and a rare
that's
candy.
going to do it.
Yeah, Mallow means he can grab himself... what's he actually? Oh, he's going to get the Mew and the double colors. Of course he's going to get the Mew and the double colorless.
Yeah, Tord actually checking with this Brooklet Hill to make sure he has a double colorless energy left, and he does. This is going to do it. Mallow will search out the Mew EX and double colorless energy, and it looks like we didn't think it was possible, but Tord Reklev is going to advance to the finals at the Oceania International Championships. This is 3 in a row, unheard of. He's 1 win away now from being a 3-time international champion.
And that is absolutely crazy. We see the chat, we hear the crowd cheering. Everybody here. Tord has become a real crowd favorite. Commiserations to William Azevedo, a great player, coming all the way to top 4, really giving his all. But Tord, we mentioned him right at the beginning of this stream. Tord is becoming the story of the Oceania International Championships. What a play there. And that end, William ended him to 2 cards, and what did Tord get? 2